What is up, everybody? Welcome to Broadened Horizon. I am your host, Drake Riggs, bringing you episode 8. This episode consists of another awesome 5-guest lineup. And joining us first is the former RIZIN Super Atomweight champion, the Korean MMA GOAT, Seo Hee Ham. Unfortunately, Ham's upcoming return bout at One Empower has been delayed due to COVID-19 precautions, so her fight with Denise Zamboanga for May 28th will have to wait until TBD. And following Ham will be the ever-dangerous duo of BJJ Wizards Kleber Koike Erbst and Roberto Satoshi de Souza. Kleber is next in action at RIZIN 28 against Mikuru Asakura on June 13th in the Tokyo Dome. Then, RIZIN ambassador Kurumi Kahn joins the show next to talk some face-punching and tell her story a little bit. And last but not least, the living legend himself, Masakazu Imanari, closes things out to talk about the 16-man tournament. His opening round matchup takes place at RIZIN 29 on June 27th, opposite Kenta Takizawa. Thank you to all of them for joining us, and to those who submitted questions for the end of the show, as always, you guys. And wherever you're watching or listening, all versions of Broadened Horizon can be found on myMMAnews.com, those versions being video, audio, and Japanese audio. All right, enough intro, more show. Enjoy, you guys. Thank you. First up is Hamderley, Seo Hee Ham. So great to get to talk to you. I know it's late over there, so just curious, how you doing? How are things over in your part of the world?
지금은 운동에 집중하고 있고.
Right now, I'm only training hard. That's all I'm doing. Training hard. And life in Korea, this is where I lived my whole life, so nothing really changed.
Awesome. That's always good to hear. And, I imagine you're very, very excited for, getting back in there right now in particular, because you've had quite a long layoff. So I'm sure you're extra excited. Is that fair to say?
흥분이라기보단 설렘인 것 같아요.
Like she can say that she's excited, but that word might not be might not be right. It's like when you meet your loved one or someone, before you meet them, how your heart is pumping, right? That's how she's feeling right now.
Perfect. And have you kind of had to do anything special to maybe distract yourself from the fact that you haven't been able to fight for maybe as frequently as you wanted to, or is that just made the focus all the much more sharper?
뭐 공백 동안
At first, it was a bit stressful because I'm used to fighting more often and staying active. But once I changed my mindset to this, like I'm okay, since there's COVID pandemic, I have nothing to do. A lot of fighters don't get a chance to fight. Maybe this might be the best time for me to enjoy that I missed out, all the things that I missed out so far because of the fights. Maybe this is the perfect time to do that. So she started, hanging out, she started enjoying her life. And after she started that and changed her mindset, everything changed. Like she wasn't stressed out anymore.
Well, yeah, that's always good to relieve the stress as much as possible. And I mean, just in terms of getting to do some of those things that maybe you didn't get to prior, anything in particular, or just kind of, chill time, like you said?
바다도 더 자주 보러 가고요.
Nothing really special. Since I live in Busan, it's famous for all the beaches in Korea. So I went to see a lot of beaches more often. And I have a dog, a puppy, so I spend more time with my dog and puppy. And then I hung out more often with my friends.
Well, you can't beat that. Beaches, friends, dogs, it all sounds pretty good to me. So there you go. But of course, so you got One Empower coming up here, which is a very special event, not just for the tournament, but all women card for one championship, which is very cool. And, of course, you've been a part of things similar to this in your career so far, but one like this, does it feel a little bit more special getting to be a part of it?
저는 가뜩이나 원을 처음
this is my debut in one championship, and my debut is for one championship Grand Prix, and this women's Grand Prix is the first time in the history of one championship, so it's something very new.
Yeah, definitely, and we're very excited to see it. And I know you're focused on Denise Zamboanga, who's right in front of you in the first round here, but you kind of had a chance to look at the rest of the competitors in the tournament, and are you viewing anybody as the biggest threat? I mean, obviously, I'm sure Denise is right there since she is your next opponent, but anybody that kind of stands out, or are you just taking it one fight at a time?
그렇게 생각해본 선수는 한 번도
I
없는
really
것 같아요.
cannot pick a specific one who's you know who has the most threat because I believe everybody in the Grand Prix right now are great athletes. They're world class, and all of them will be a difficult fight. Nobody there is an easy fight for me. So you know I really cannot pick one.
Yeah, totally fair. A lot of great fighters in the tournament, yourself included, obviously. And then Denise, who you're taking on in the first fight, as mentioned. Just, having had time to prepare for her now as the fight is getting closer, what are you kind of your expectations in this matchup? Are you kind of, focusing more on yourself for the game plan in this fight, or how are you approaching this one necessarily?
물론 쉬운 시합은
I
되지 않은데
believe in my whole career I never really expected any result, or I never said that I'm gonna do this or that because I just try my best in that circle or cage, but for this fight my preparation went so well, and for the first time I can say that I would like to knock her out.
Okay, there we go. So it sounds like kind of a go with the flow kind of approach is what you had before this, but you're changing it a little bit. Is that what I'm hearing?
네, 저는 케이지에 올라와서
Yeah,
2시간
most people know that I'm a fighter who likes to
스타일이에요.
go until the end.
되게
Like
5분,
if it's a
3분
5-minute 5-round fight or
다
three rounds 5-minute fight, it doesn't matter. I like to use all that time. I like to finish that like I like to finish all that time. I like to go the distance. But for this fight, I don't know why. I really cannot explain why because I don't know also. But I really want to finish her. I want to knock her out.
All right, well, that's exciting to hear. We always love when fighters want to go out there and finish, and your fights are entertaining as is when they go to decision or not. So that's awesome to hear. But also, I follow you on Instagram, and you're moving up in weight for this fight, leaving RIZIN, going from the super atomweight division, moving up 10 pounds or so. And it seems like you're in incredible shape for this one, like really packing on the muscle. Is that kind of a strategy of yours, going into this one?
네, 요번 시합 준비
yes, it is planned. It's something that I planned of. After signing with one championship and after getting my date for the debut, I already knew that I'll be fighting somebody bigger than me usual, So what I did is I purposely made my body bigger, and then I packed on more muscle so that I don't get, my opponents don't outstrength me. So it was planned, and I think my plan is going well.
Yeah, and so with that in mind, like, do you feel that preparing yourself for the size, in this tournament a bit, that could be the difference maker at this weight compared to, when you were in the UFC at the same weight and maybe not as, physically strong?
네, 그 UFC 때는 평체를 열심히
So during my time in the UFC, I tried to make my body bigger, but I failed every time. Like my walking weight, my normal walk around weight never increased. It stayed the same. I don't know why. But when preparing for one championship, I changed my method, and my body started getting bigger, and my walk around weight is now a lot heavier than my usual walk around weight. And because of that, I'm very confident that I'm gonna be a different Seo Hee Ham than when I was in the UFC, because this is basically almost the same weight class, right, as the UFC. So I think I'm going to be different. At least I think that I'll be different.
All right. I mean, yeah, I think it's fair to say that you've already proven to be a different Seo Hee Ham from in the UFC in the run that you've been on since then, dropping back down to atomweight and the winning streak you're on right now. And, because of that, I'm curious, like, was there anything or something that you learned specifically from that UFC run that, made a change in you for this current run that you're on now, the winning streak that you're on, aside from, just going back down in weight?
그냥 UFC를 다녀오니까 그냥 무서울 게 없는 것 같았어요. 겁이 없어.
It's very simple. After experiencing UFC, I learned that there's nothing to be scared of, and that's what made the difference.
All right. Yeah, that's definitely very interesting and understandable. And, that kind of brings me to this question is, you've been a part of so many very big and notable platforms, stages in MMA in your career to this point, UFC, RIZIN, and now going to ONE, and then the other Japanese promotions earlier on. Do you take in the moments from all these promotional stages for what they are, or do you kind of try and treat them all the same as best as you can?
제가
I experienced a lot of promotions, and I can say that every promotion is very different. They have their own style, But if you look at my career, every time I signed with that new organization, it was when that organization was on the peak, or was like when that organization had the most spotlight for that division. Like right now, one championship in atomweight. I believe one championship atomweight right now is the deepest. It's like it has the most spotlight. So every time I moved to that organization, I believe that organization had the most spotlight, and it was the hottest, promotion for her weight. So of course, when signing with new promotion, I don't treat it the same. I try to soak everything in, and then I think about it a lot with those each organization, and then I have a lot of different thoughts.
Okay, very interesting. And mentioning the spotlight right there kind of makes me go back to your last fight with Ayaka Hamasaki, when you won the RIZIN title. And I'm just curious, having had a little bit of a rivalry with Hamasaki, where you guys have had the trilogy in your careers, like where did that win for you kind of rank among most satisfying? Because of course she had the 2 wins over you earlier on, and then you get you get your win finally for the title in the trilogy fight. Like where did that rank for you?
아니요, 만족스러운 승리는 아니었고요.
The only thing I can say is that I treat all my fights the same. And another thing is that I'm never satisfied with my fights ever. I was never satisfied. I always wanted to do more, and I always wanted to be better than that, So I cannot say that was the most satisfying win for me. It was just another fight in my career, and it was just one of the fights from all of my, a lot of my fights. That was it. But it's true that it was a fight in a very new system, new promotion, new stage. It's basically it's still new for her. So it was a good experience. It was new, and then I finally beat her. Yes, but it was nothing like it was not like the most satisfying win or anything like that.
Well, I think that mentality is kind of what's gotten you to be as good as you are. So I expect nothing less. And just looking back on kind of, that whole RIZIN experience for you. So most of your career, taking place in Japan, and RIZIN a very big stage now in the present day for, any fighter who's, participated in Japan to be a part of. How do you just look back on, that whole run you had with them?
So in RIZIN, I love Japan. So that was good. I love Japan. And because it's the biggest organization in Japan, I always wanted to experience the stage there. And I cannot say anything bad about it. It was a very good experience.
Definitely. And, I know that for at least earlier on in your MMA career, you're also doing some kickboxing. And I know you kind of started in kickboxing as well, had some shoot box fights, all that fun stuff. And with one championship, now you kind of get the opportunity to, do a little bit of that too, if you want to. I mean, is that something that interests you at this stage? Of course, after you go through the tournament and win the MMA title and all that, but kickboxing, is that something you'd be interested in doing for one, if possible?
저는 다 좋죠.
Yeah, I don't mind anything. I love kickboxing. I love Muay Thai. And I'm not fighting MMA because I only want MMA. It's not that. I love all martial arts. And if I'm ever given a chance to fight in kickboxing or Muay Thai in one championship, I believe I will do well.
Yeah, that would be fun to see. And I mean, just to go back in time a little bit, or a lot of it, I suppose, at this point, but to when you first did start kickboxing, which correct me if I'm wrong, but training in maybe 2004-ish, probably a little bit earlier. I'm just curious, how did you get into combat sports in the first place?
격투기라는 종목은
at first it wasn't MMA or combat sports that I wanted to do. I wanted to be a soldier. So to do that, I enrolled in a taekwondo gym near my house. And it just happened that that taekwondo gym had Muay Thai, kickboxing, MMA, and everything. So, and then when I enrolled in taekwondo, the gym owner said, if I enroll in taekwondo, I can do everything that I want to do. So that's how it started, and then it just came until now.
Your actual debut in MMA, so he was a pretty big upset, you know, taking on a legendary atomweight, Hisei Watanabe. Like, did that feel kind of crazy in the moment, because she had a whole lot of MMA experience and was known for her, you know, great power in the division. And you went in there and you beat her in your very first fight. Was that crazy at the time?
놀라진 않았고요.
So I wasn't really surprised because I went there to win, you know, but I was very happy. That's all I can say. You know, that's the time in my career where I didn't know what MMA really was, you know. Like, it's MMA and I didn't even know what M was, you know. That's the time. But I was happy because I was able to travel, enjoy the time, experience some new things in my life, and win the fight. So it was a good experience and happy experience for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, I mean, would you kind of say that the ignorance was a little bit of bliss in that case to maybe keep pressure off of you? Because earlier in your career as well, you fought names like Yuka Tsuji and Megumi Fuji, who also more legends. Like, I think in many of those cases, people would have been a little overwhelmed, but not really following the sport kind of helped you in those cases, right?
저는 선수 가려본 적은 없고요.
You know, I can confidently say this. I never said no to any fighter. You know, I believe that every fighter and every fight is a hard fight. I don't believe that there's an easy fight out there. You know, and this is MMA, and this is a fight where you will only know what's gonna happen when you actually go inside that cage or ring or circle with your opponent, against your opponent. So, you know, that's what I did. I went in there. I didn't care about their name, record, nothing like that. It was just a fighter versus fighter, a human being versus human being. And, you know, it is just what it is, right? So maybe that's why I came all the way until now. I'm not sure.
Absolutely. Well, very, very interesting stuff there as well. So and you know, I've mentioned these legends' names, and I think I kind of have a feel for what you're going to say here, but you are a legend now. That's undeniable. And having had the career that you've had, do you feel like you have left your mark in the sport? Or, you know, it's obviously career's not over yet, but at this point, do you feel like, you know, you've put your name in the history books comfortably, feel good about what you've done? You've won about 5, 6, 7 titles, you know, throughout your career. Do you feel like you've left your mark in MMA?
레전드다 막 이렇게까지 생각해 본 적은
I never thought in my life, even once, that I'm a legend. Never did. I can tell you that. I never thought of myself as a legend. And to be honest, I believe that there are so many fighters out there who are better than me. It's just that they never got an opportunity to fight me yet. And there are also fighters who are way more talented than me who didn't make their debut yet. So that's what I think. And I just believe that I was just in the sports such a long time, and I was just fortunate to have a lot of fights. And it is true that most of the fights went well and the results were good, but I don't think that, you know, I'm a legend. Never thought about that. I'm just happy that I'm able to, you know, I'm able to continue in the sports. And if I feel that there's a new challenge for me, like one championship right now, I believe that this was something new to challenge myself. It was a new stage where I could experience something new. Then I would like to continue, you know. And I'm just fortunate that I'm doing what I love to do. And I'm just, you know, I'm just trying to experience as much as possible until I can't do this anymore.
Definitely. And I mean, some very unsurprisingly humble thoughts there. So he very well said. And with all that in mind, like, there's a lot of people out there, though, who do believe that you're like the Korean MMA greatest fighter of all time, and myself included. But when you hear kind of people say that kind of thing, what do you think?
그렇게 생각해 주시는 건 당연히 감사한데.
I'm very thankful that some people even think that I'm the GOAT. But the only reason some people calls me that is because I was just in the sport for so long. That's the only reason.
Fair enough. And I mean, is it important for you to be a role model kind of to fighters? Because, as you mentioned, ones that are coming up and maybe haven't even fought in the sport yet, or just, people from your country in general who need some inspiration, and an athlete like you is a good one to have. Is it important for you to be a role model, or just it is what it is kind of?
저 그런 거 별로 신경 안 쓰는 편이에요.
She said, yeah, I don't really mind if people think I'm a good role model or not. I just do what I want, I'm just myself.
There you go. That's the best way to approach it, I think. So awesome there. And, I'm sure that there's somebody who does look up to you as a role model. It's probably your teammate, Siwoo Park, who is doing very good things. I think she's looking great in Deep Jewels and in a tournament of her own. Both of you guys are in tournaments together. So I'm just curious, like, what has it been like continually working with her, getting to know her? And now, I mean, you're both preparing for tournaments, so that's kind of cool, right?
걔가 제 곁에 있는 건가요? 팀 곁에 있는 거지.
A simple answer. She's not with me, or she's not beside me. She's with the team, and she's beside the team. That's why she's with me. She's forced.
Okay. Well, hey, it is, that's how the teams work, right? So very fun there. All right, last thing I will leave you with here, definitely a fun one. I'm excited to ask, your nickname, Hamderley. We know what that's about. Vanderlei Silva, Hamderley, fantastic nickname. What's the story behind it though? Like, did you give this to yourself? Did somebody call you this? Where did the Hamderley nickname come from?
이거 시합을 하면 닉네임이
It's definitely not a fight name that I gave to myself. Nope. And it's actually from my fans and from the people around me who gave me that fight name, because they said that my fighting style and Vanderlei Silva's fighting style were similar. Moving forward, pressuring, fun fights. So at first, I really loved that fight name because Vanderlei Silva is a legend. He's been doing so well when I got that fight name. But now I don't really like it. The reason is because now that Vanderlei Silva retired and all that, and me, I'm getting older, people are saying that not only our fighting style is similar, but even my face is becoming similar like Vanderlei Silva. So I don't really like it anymore, to be honest.
That is fantastic. So I thought that was kind of the initial part of that was the reason where that came from. But yeah, maybe we can try and change that for you now. But that's hilarious. Good stuff there, Sohee. But all right, we will leave it there. That's perfect. That's all I got for you, ma'am. This was amazing. This was really great getting to talk to you. I've wanted to, get a hold of you for a while. So this was great. I'm very excited to see you in a part of the tournament, all that stuff. I wish you the best in the final weeks that we got coming up here, as it is approaching quickly. So wish you the best of luck, and thank you so much for the time here. It was great. And I wish you a good night, as it is late over there.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Now we move to the dynamic duo of Kleber Koike Erbst and Roberto Satoshi de Souza. Just to get into it a little bit, you guys, I'm just curious, how'd you meet? How long ago was it? Tell me the story a little bit. I want to know how you guys came to be good friends, good training partners, all that fun stuff.
Really, when I come to Japan the first time, Kleber is still training with my old brother. And like that, I met him in the mats, and he same belt than me. Then when I come to Japan, I purple belt, him and purple belt too. So sometimes me and him compete together. The age is a little bit same, I 31, him 31 too. I sometimes go to the parties, so go to meet the girls together and start like that. Normal friends, training together, go out together, enjoy the life together.
Absolutely. So you guys spend much time together outside of training then, not just a training-based friendship, yeah?
Yeah, and one time me and him live together too, you know, because sometimes one time in Japan it's hard for the works that his mom and his daddy move to Brazil, and he wants to stay in Japan. He come to live me and my old brother, you know, let's train together, go outside together, live in the house together, you know.
Of course. And I'm sure, did you notice some big, maybe changes in your skill set after working together for so long, like the improvements, feeding off of each other a bit?
Yeah, this is good too, you know, because sometimes in the skills and when make some mistakes, you know, me and him help the others, you know. That is it's good for us, you know. Grow up together.
Yeah, it's definitely awesome to watch. And, for a while there, we were all really waiting for Kleber's RIZIN debut. It was something everybody was very excited for. I'm sure you were too. So, I mean, for Kleber, what was it like getting to debut in RIZIN finally after all this time?
Really, I have, you know, because I know he is a great fighter. He have a good potential, you know, and I said because he is very good training to me, you know. He's very good fighter, but after KSW, he can fight the other event, you know. And I think he don't fight for almost 1 year, 1 year and a half, you know. And that I feel is like he lost the time, you know, when he don't fight. And when you see when he debut and the last fight, man, it's good to him, it's good to the event, it's good to everybody when he fight, you know.
Indeed. And, for Kleber, was he excited, to finally get on the RIZIN stage? And was he nervous at all when he finally got to RIZIN?
This is ask for Kleber?
Yeah, yeah.
Como você ficou nervoso assim na sua estreia do RIZIN, né? Como foi esse sentimento assim da sua primeira luta?
É um sentimento diferente, né? Acho que é o fator de lutar aqui, né? Muita pressão. De um evento grande também tinha que mostrar resultado, né?
He coming for KSW, but when he fight is RIZIN, he feels more nervous because I think his first time in big event in Japan. That when the students close, the family close, you know, everybody more close than him. And because when he fight the KSW, just him or more 2 seconds or 3 peoples know who is him, you know, live together him. Like that, no have this pressure, you know. I think he feel in the RIZIN, he have more pressure because he's the country he live, you know.
Yeah. And were you nervous at all for him? Because I know that there's some fighters where they're more nervous for their friends fighting than themselves sometimes. Did you feel that way?
For sure. Because I say to event, give this chance to him, you know, and he fight, he not make a good fight. This is bad for me too. But for sure, when him gonna fight, I'm more nervous, you know, because I don't know, it's hard to say, but it's like when I lost, for me is like it's hard for sure. But for me, it's more hard when I see my close friends, my big friends lost too. You know, I think it hurts more. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I mean, with that in mind, what was it like when you guys got to fight together on the same night? What was that feeling and experience like?
Really, I don't like, you know, because like when he gonna fight, when in the training, I try make the game same the guy he gonna fight, you know. And when me gonna fight, he do the same. And now it's hard because the Kleber fight, the guy the Kleber fight have the base is change, you know. But the guy I gonna fight is this normal base for the punch and kick, you know. That is hard because I sometimes I help him, sometimes he help me. But when me and him fight the same day is hard, you know. Because me and him need training.
Yeah.
It's hard for support, you know.
And Kleber, how did you feel about fighting on the same day?
O que você sente quando a gente luta no mesmo dia?
Eu sinto um certo é bom, mas ao mesmo tempo eu fico um pouco nervoso, né? Porque como você falou, não dá pra gente também se dedicar 100% ao treino, né? Porque eu vou lutar com o cara de uma base, você luta de outro, cada um tem um estilo, né? Essa só é a parte ruim, né?
He feel the same, it's good because gonna fight the same day, but it's hard for the sports like second, like that when he gonna fight is important. Inside for the and outside for the ring and say something for helping him and him the same. Like when me and him fight the same day, I can go in the second with him, and that is good because fighting the same day, but it's hard for the support. It was more harder for the support.
Right. And did it kind of feel like, after watching him fight first and you see the submission that he gets, does it feel like a mini competition then to see who could win more impressively between you guys?
Yeah, this is hard too, like the last time he fight first, and he won, he submitting the guy, and I feel more relaxed, I feel happy because he won, but this put a little bit pressure in me, because he won, but I go the next if I don't want or don't make a good fight, this is bad for me too, but it's funny. It's funny. I happy when he won. I feel more relaxed, but I feel this pressure too, because he fights first. The next time I gonna fight first,
Definitely. And Kleber, were you happy to know that you submitted your opponent quicker?
Tipo, igual da outra vez, né? Tipo, eu lutei primeiro, você lutou primeiro, né? Então, tipo, você finalizou, aí o que eu sinto, né? Aí eu falei, né, que, tipo, eu fiquei feliz, eu relaxei, mas ao mesmo tempo tem aquela pressão agora, tipo, mano, e agora, né? Aí, tipo, o que você prefere? Você prefere lutar primeiro ou que eu lute primeiro? This pressure after the fight when he won is more, it's not too much pressure like that,
Of course. Kleber, you had a fantastic career in KSW, were the champion there, racked up plenty of experience. And now in RIZIN, do you feel like all that experience in KSW really helped you for this stage in RIZIN?
Você já teve bastante luta, teve bastante experiência no KSW. Você acha que essa experiência toda no KSW está te ajudando no RIZIN também?
Acho que sim, né? Acho que o diferencial é isso, né? Saber que eu já passei por um evento muito grande, já fiz lutas importantes. Hoje tá lutando aqui, eu fico um pouco mais tranquilo, né? Sobre lutar, mas ainda eu sinto muita pressão de lutar aqui dentro.
Yeah, for sure. When he fighted the KSW, he have a lot of people there. He fighted the big names, like strong guys, but he feel the same pressure. When he fighted the KSW, just him and more three or three friends, But when he fighted Japan, just this is more hard, The pressure for close friends, and the family, the students, just this. But for sure, then when he fight the KSW, helping him a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, for you, Satoshi, like you've racked up plenty of experience in RIZIN now, and you're kind of becoming a pretty big star in your own right. What has it just been like for you getting to go on this journey that you've been on so far?
I really, before when I fight MMA, I never put the guys I fight never putting me in hard positions, like that. Really, I tell this for my students, I really start my MMA career 3 years ago when I debuted in the RIZIN. Because when I debuted the RIZIN, I started to fight tough guys in Japan, tough guys in the world. Like that, I really start to grow up now. Like that, I just really, for me, I my first fight, I think my first MMA fight, I think 10 years ago, almost, or 8 years ago. But my field, I started MMA just 3 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, that's when things really picked up, right? And, I don't mean to bring up the loss, but like, I'm curious, that fight with Johnny Case, like, what was your biggest takeaways from it? Something like that. It's the only time you've lost in MMA, just, learning from it.
I really went this fight. My head's not good. I have something familiar problems. But I don't like to say that. It's like excuses. I don't like to say that. So this fight, my head's not good. I don't have the good training. Is he won? Just this. I make certain mistakes. And MMA, and when you fight the tough guys in big events, you can make a mistake. You can, if you don't have 100% focus in the fight, you lost. But I say this a lot for my students too. And for the other peoples. After this fight, I changed a lot. I think when I lost this fight is very important for me because I changed a lot after this fight.
Yeah, for sure. We've seen that you're looking awesome in these recent fights so far. And, speaking of fights coming up, Kleber's got his with Mikuru Asakura. And so Kleber, man, what do you think about this matchup? It's a great name to get, should be very exciting. How do you feel about getting Mikuru?
O que você acha que você vai ser da luta do... Qual o seu sentimento dessa sua luta com o Mikuru, né? Como você acha que vai ser essa luta?
Eu acho que vai ser uma luta, digamos, difícil. Mas acho que eu vou sair com a vitória aí, vou conseguir finalizar ele. Né? Acho que a gente não pode menosprezar ele, porque ele também não vem 7 vitórias consecutivas. Perdeu pro Soft Side. Acho que é um cara duro, mas eu vou conseguir passar com maestria e me tornar campeão.
Yeah, for sure, he's a tough guy. He won the big names in Japan. I think in the last year, he fight the one tough guy from Bellator too. For sure, he's a tough. But we train hard. Him believe he can submit him, and after him, he can get the belt.
Yeah, I mean, is that a fight that, Kleber, you're viewing as you win this one and then you have to fight Saito next, right? It kind of only makes sense that a title shot would come after this.
Você também acha que, passando pela Sakura, com certeza a sua próxima luta vai ser pelo cinturão com o Saito?
Tem que ser, né?
For sure, need. For sure.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, just what do you think about the matchup, Satoshi? Very exciting, I'm sure. And, I'm sure you'll be nervous for it, but just what do you think about, Mikuru as his opponent?
Yeah, for sure. He have a good sense for the striking. He can make a very fast the distance, for the give the punch, escape the punch, and defense the takedowns. But I believe in Kleber. I just think if he don't get nervous the day in the fight, he can submit for sure.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing it play out. And the Tokyo Dome, you guys, that's got to be exciting, right? So, Kleber, how do you feel about getting to fight in the Tokyo Dome, man?
O que você sente sabendo que vai ser no Tokyo Dome, né? Que é o maior evento, o maior ginásio assim, do Japão?
Eu fico muito feliz, né? Feliz porque eu lembro que o Tokyo Dome é onde tem as maiores batalhas, as maiores lutas do Pride, né? E a gente está podendo fazer isso hoje aqui no Japão. Isso é muito gratificante, né?
For sure, the Tokyo Dome I think is more big place for to make the event like that, And before the Pride just in the Tokyo Dome, like a big names there too, And so happy because it's funny. Me and him when come to Japan, work at the factory, and now in more couple days gonna fight the most big event in the most big place in Japan.
Yeah.
It is exciting for sure.
Absolutely. And so for you, Satoshi, I mean, what's next, man? It's got to be Tofik, right? We all want to see you fight him and lightweight title.
Yeah, this is problem. I'm not for sure because he have some problems for Corona,
Right.
But that's the guy saying the event want to make this fight, but I just wait and I train for that, and I hope this happens, I want this title shot. And I feel now I'm ready, when I debut in my RIZIN and I started the tournament, I feel like a young kid in the big event, But now I feel I'm ready for this, I trained so hard, I changed my mind, I changed my training, and for sure I won. When he coming or the other people or who the event put in my front for the belt, I won the fight for this belt. I think you need fight for to get the top.
Yeah, well, hopefully that gets to happen soon. It's very exciting to think about that fight. But do you feel like you're at a point now where you'll wait for Tofik, or would you take somebody else in the meantime if they came to you with somebody else?
For me, whatever. No, I don't choice. I never choice who I'm gonna fight. When I go to Rising, I never choice. Just the event say to me, yeah, have this guy, and I say, hey, for sure. I never choice. And like that is to figure the other guys the event want I gonna fight. I just fight.
Absolutely. And it was really cool kind of to see you do the grappling kind of gauntlet style thing where you took on like 5 people back to back. Was that cool for you to get to do in the Ryzen ring? Like, tell me about that experience.
Really, when I fight, this is more for like a jiu-jitsu demonstration.
Right.
Like I want to show the words that everybody can train in jiu-jitsu. Sometimes for the competition, sometimes for the lifestyle. Like that in this day, the 5-1, I fight the girls, the legend like Yuki Nakai. I fight the purple belt too. It's just more for demonstrations, not like really fight.
Right. Still fun to see, that's for sure. And
yeah.
All right, you guys, I'll leave you with just two more questions here. Been great getting to chat with you. In terms of submissions, because you guys obviously very phenomenal at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm just curious, do you have any favorite techniques over others? One submission that is maybe you would say your favorite submission you like to pull off?
Tipo, a gente é muito representante de jiu-jitsu. Tem alguma que é mais favorita para finalizar, que você gosta?
Eu acho que é o triângulo, né?
Triângulo normal da guarda? Kleber say he preferred the triangle. When he played the guard, he go the triangle. I think he may have a lot more fights in submissions for the guard triangle. And for me, I think it's the back choke. I think this is for me favorite position. I can do in the Rising already, but I want maybe in the next fight I try more.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. All right, you guys. Last thing I got for you: how soon are you two going to be holding Ryzen titles? How soon are you predicting?
For me, for sure this year. For me, for sure the next fight.
All right.
But for Kleber, I don't know. Quanto tempo você acha que até você chegar ao cinturão do Ryzen?
O meu só ganha nessa luta, né? Se eu ganhar essa luta, acho que já me vejo no cinturão do Ryzen.
Kleber feel when he won this fight, after he won the fight, after for sure the title shot, and I feel this year maybe me and him can make the belt rising.
Yeah, you never know. By New Year's Eve, right? Could be a possibility. So we'll see. But all right, you guys, that's all I got for you. Really fun getting to chat with you. I've been wanting to do it for a while. Both very exciting fighters. Love watching you guys fight, and look forward to whatever's next for you, Satoshi. Hopefully Tofik, and then Kleber. Excited for the Asakura matchup. We'll be watching, and just wish you guys the best of luck with everything. And yeah, just big thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, man. Thank you.
Yeah. Next up is the Ryzen ambassador herself, Kurumi Kahn. All right. Well, thanks so much for joining me, Kurumi. It is awesome getting to talk to you. Big fan of all the work you've been doing, part of Ryzen and whatnot. So just how's the day been so far? Happy Friday to you, ma'am.
So yeah, Ryzen's just around the corner, which always gets me excited. And today I'm here at the office to do some filming with Shingo. So yeah, I'm very excited and I'm very happy to be here.
Of course, always fun to work with Shingo. So like, how fun is it, for you to do these things? I mean, do you ever have any like anxiety or stress, or is it always just a fun time getting to be a part of these kind of things?
So yeah, I originally loved watching martial arts, like combat sports. So I was a big fan to begin with. So yeah, it's fun. But at the beginning, I was very nervous. I didn't know how to approach this job, and I always felt the pressure of having to meet everybody's expectations. So it was hard for me to approach. But once I picked it up and just found out that I just have to be who I am, just not try to force it. it's been nothing but fun ever since.
Yeah, absolutely. Always very important to just be yourself no matter what you're doing. And, Kurumi, I know you've done some modeling and do some modeling, and, you said right there that you have always been interested in martial arts, but just how did you come to be a part of the RIZIN family? Like, is it something you went after, or did it just kind of fall into your lap? Tell me the story there.
もともとライジンを私
So like I said, I was a
I
was a fan originally, and I would go to like RIZIN events. And there was this one opportunity where I got to meet Mr. Sakakibara, and we were just sitting there, and I was talking a lot about RIZIN and MMA. And Sakakibara was like, "Oh my God, this girl knows what she's talking about," and I guess he was impressed. And that information trickled down to our PR staff, Mr. Sasahara, and just that beginning. And then I think my first involvement with RIZIN was with the Horiguchi versus Tenshin fight. I did some commentating, or just some commentating for the GAL, which is a domestic streaming pay-per-view. So I was called for that. I was originally a big Horiguchi fan, and that was my involvement. And then I did a couple of those, and then at one point they offered me and say, "Hey, why don't you just become a RIZIN ambassador?" And here I am.
Is that kind of crazy to you to think about? Like, when you look back on it all and you're like, wow, look where we are now from then to here we are, right now.
いやもう全く考えられてなかったですし
Yeah, so I would have never dreamt about it. I never thought about my current situation. I was just a fan, something that I like to do. And at the time, I would never imagine that. Last time I was actually sitting in the official commentating booth, and I'd never dreamt of that, and I would have never thought about it back then.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the commentary booth, because that was something we saw you get to do for the last event. And like, just how was that? I mean, I'm sure you were nervous for it, but I'm sure it turned out all right. How was doing commentary for the first time?
楽しかったです。
So simply, it was fun. I had a blast. First of all, watching the fights that close up, it's something else. And you get to see all the details of what the fighters are doing. You get to see the small movements, and it was just fun. But something I realized, that I'm a big MMA fan, and my lack of knowledge for kickboxing, I realized that a lot. And now, to know more about kickboxing, I actually train kickboxing now.
Okay, well, that's interesting. I was going to ask you about that too, if you did any training yourself. I know I remember seeing a video of Shizuka Sugiyama-san, when she was it looked like she was pranking you a little bit and sneaking up on a photo shoot or something. But is this your first time starting training then, or have you done like jiu-jitsu before? Is this your first time getting into it?
もともとやってなかったんですけ
So
ど
I originally did nothing, competing in nothing, but I have been practicing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for about a year and a half now, and I just recently started kickboxing.
Okay, well, congratulations on the 1.5 year mark. I'll give you congratulations for that. And would you ever consider actually fighting, Kurumi, or are we way too soon to even think about that?
試合出たいんです。もう試合出たくて。
So yeah, I've been dying to want to compete in a jiu-jitsu tournament. But due to the whole pandemic stuff, the amount of competitions and tournaments are kind of slowing down, and I haven't been able to compete in jiu-jitsu yet. But as for MMA, it's just too much. I'm not thinking about it.
Totally understandable. It's crazy what some of these people are capable of doing. And, just with that in mind, like, you talk to a lot of the fighters too, obviously. You interview them, a little bit like we're doing here. Was it intimidating at first, just being such a fan, like when you see, like, let's say Horiguchi for the first time, and I'm sure you're like, oh my God, I'm about to talk to Horiguchi, but was it intimidating, just speaking to fighters and being around them a little bit when you first got to do this?
ファイターはまあ独特な空気
So yeah, I mean, fighters are very unique in their own way. So there's a lot of people who are definitely unique. As far as interviewing the fighters, the pre-fight interviews, I did feel threatened a little bit intimidated when I did the pre-fight interviews, because obviously they're getting ready for a fight. You know, they're all focused for the fight. So those were a little bit scary at first, but when you do the post-fight interviews, now they're all relaxed, they're done with their job, and you know, you really get to know the true character themselves, and then you finally realize that, you know, oh, these guys are just regular people. So that's how I feel.
Yeah, definitely a little bit eye-opening, you know, when you get to experience it all, I'm sure. And you know, when it comes to maybe favorite projects or just things that you get to do in your ambassador role, is there anything that sticks out where you're like, oh yes, we get to do that today, and it just gets you really excited?
そうですね。私でもやっぱり
I think I genuinely like to do interviews, and I really enjoy them because you really get to know the person's character, like who he is. And like for me, I was a big Horiguchi fan, right? And I didn't really have any interest in other fighters. But once you start doing interviews and you get to know one person's character, the personality, like you really get to know them. So, you know, you begin to like them and you begin to be more interested in each fighter. So with that being said, you know, the interviews gives me the perfect opportunity to get to know each individual.
Indeed. And so this might be a silly question, but is Horiguchi then by default your favorite fighter to talk to, or is there somebody taking that spot now? If you could pick somebody, of course they're all great, but somebody you like to talk to more than others.
堀口選手がナンバーワンです。変わらないですね。
Horiguchi is still number one.
Of course, definitely always a fun guy to chat with. And, you know, there's just so many fighters in RIZIN that are awesome, you know, Kurumi, as you know. But, like, I'm curious, how do you feel about, you know, seeing the women get all these great opportunities just as time goes on in MMA around the world, but on RIZIN's platform as well, obviously. Just how great is it from your perspective to see, like, you know, we just have Hamasaki, the champion, you know, defending in the main event, these kind of things. How cool is that for you to see the opportunities for women in MMA just continue to expand?
So
yeah, I've got nothing but respect for those, you know, women fighters who step into that ring. And I think for RIZIN, you know, Reina was the one who solidified women's MMA in RIZIN. And I've got nothing but respect. And then we have, you know, Hamasaki, who's the inaugural champion and like one of the best in the world. And when you look at like promotions outside of RIZIN, you know, you've got other Asian women who become champions in other promotions. You're getting to see these tough Asian women starting to take over, not take over, but slowly starting to make a presence in the international scene. So I think it's very great. It's great to see Asian women, strong women, making a presence all over the world. And I hope to see more tough and good Asian women in RIZIN as well. And I want to see, you know, female fighters put on a war.
Yes, of course. We always love to see, you know, the women do great things and put on wars, as always. So, of course, coming up next, though, Kurumi, we got RIZIN 28 and RIZIN 29, Tokyo Dome show coming up, the Grand Prix, the 16-man bantamweight tournament. I mean, how excited are you for this? I'm very excited. It's going to be fun, but just give me your thoughts on, you know, the tournament we're about to be getting in these two events.
Yeah, I'm very excited about this tournament. You know, RIZIN has a really deep division in the bantamweight, and you know, even without Horiguchi, I think it's a really exciting tournament to determine who's the number one outside of Horiguchi. So, you know, it's the Grand Prix itself. I'm just nothing but excited.
Yeah, hard not to be in. The Tokyo Dome aspect too. Does that excite you, getting to go to this fantastic, very historic arena? I'm sure is going to be cool for you.
私そのプライドとか
You know, I was just still a baby when Pride was at their prime doing events, at the Tokyo Dome. So I have no idea. I can't even imagine what it's going to be like. And I'm just very excited to be in such a prestigious, you know, venue. And I can't wait. I'm just simply excited to see what it's going to be like, what it's going to look like. And overall, I can't wait for that experience.
Yeah, it's very cool to think about going back to the Pride days a little bit, just with that vibe of the arena and all that. And I'm sure that maybe you've gone back and watched some Pride fights since becoming a fan and all that. So with that in mind, Kurumi, like, do you have a favorite fight of all time? One that sticks out for you that you're like, oh, that's my favorite.
私選んだ時、大砂嵐ボブサップ
You know, for me, my honest opinion would be Bob Sapp versus Osuna Arashi. But you know, that might not be the right answer. So let me rephrase that, okay? So if I were to say, it would be Musaev versus Pitbull for the finals. And you know, I didn't even know, we didn't even realize that both fighters were fighting with broken fists. And even with hurt hands, with injuries, they can put on such a high level, great performance. And you know, I think it's rare to be able to see such high level competition between world class fighters. So I think it's a very rare thing, and it was a fantastic fight.
Yeah, that was definitely an incredible one there, and just had to mention the Sunarashi Sap fight. Of course, it's everybody's favorite fight deep down, if we're going to be honest with ourselves. But no, the Pitbull one, yes, very fun stuff there, and you know, the climax to that tournament. So yeah, a very good choice there, Kurumi. All right, I will leave you with two last things here. This has been awesome getting to talk to you. Outside of MMA stuff, though, you know, some other hobbies that you might have. What are some things that Kurumi Kahn likes to do in, you know, day-to-day life? Some things that interest you.
格闘技以外の趣味ですか？今ないですね。
Outside of MMA, I think my hobby is nothing but MMA. And you know, I've started training jiu-jitsu, and you know, but before I realized it, everything I'm looking up on YouTube is fight related. And all my social media posts are fight related. And I just really can't think of anything outside of fight related topics at the moment. So I think that's just what I enjoy most.
There we go. It is definitely very life consuming. I can attest to that as well. It's hard not to be obsessed about it, right? So, all right, Kurumi, one last thing for you. Just future goals with RIZIN. You know, what are some things, you know, if you're a person who plans things out and hopes to achieve things in the future, do you have any goals going forward right now, or are you just going with the flow?
そうですね。まあでも。
So one thing is that I really enjoyed commentating. So I really want to study and, you know, raise my abilities to be able to get back into commentating again. The other thing is that I really want to experience that atmosphere and the vibe during the Pride Golden Majors. Like everybody I talk to who were involved, they say that it was something surreal. And those days were the best, you know, the atmosphere was unreal. So everybody who tells me that, and I want to experience that. So I hope that, you know, we can build RIZIN, the popularity even more, so that I can one day experience that same atmosphere and that same vibe that Pride once had. So that would be my goal.
ちなみにドレイクさんが好きな選手は誰なんですか？
So Drake, let me ask you, who is your favorite fighter?
My favorite fighter in RIZIN or MMA overall?
RIZIN.
Oh boy, that's a tough question, Kurumi. That's a very tough one. I don't know. I really like Ayaka Hamasaki. You know, it's a very good one. Horiguchi's fun. Kaio Sakura's fun. Miyu Yamamoto, you know, there's a lot of choices. That's a hard one. I don't know. Let's go with Ayaka, the greatest of all time, in my opinion. I think it's always amazing getting to watch her for me. So I'll go with Ayaka.
浜崎選手か。じゃあその浜崎選手と浜崎選手の再戦してほしいなとか思いますか？
Do you want Hamasaki and do you want to see the fourth fight between Hamasaki and Ham?
I would love to. How could you not? I mean, that trilogy fight was amazing, right? Like one of the best fights ever. That would be a treat, you know, to see that one again.
わかります。私もです。見たいですよね。
Yeah, she agrees with you.
maybe one day if we're lucky. But all right, Kurumi, we could leave it there. I know I've taken plenty of your time. You're very busy. You got your stuff to do today. So this was awesome. I'm very happy that we got to talk, and I love all the stuff that you're doing. You're very entertaining to watch and listen to, despite me not knowing Japanese. Always fun to watch. So I wish you all the best going forward. Hope you can achieve your goals and do more commentary and just continue to grow your brand as we're all trying to do here. So just a big thank you, a big arigato gozaimashita for taking the time. And yeah, maybe we'll get to meet at an event one day when I can make it over there. So just wish you all the best. Thank you again.
ぜひ英語頑張ります。
She'll study English. She'll work on her English.
Okay. I'm still working on my Japanese as well. So
Thank you.
yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.
And last but not least, it is Masakazu Imanari. All right. Well, thanks so much for joining me here, Masakatsu. Great to get to talk to you, man. Looking forward to your fight coming up here, and just good to see you back. And last time we saw you was September. So just curious, how you been keeping busy since the last fight, enjoying the time off up until now.
そうですね。基本的にグラップリングばっかしやってました。
So basically, I train just grappling on a daily basis.
All right, very cool, very cool. Is it just pretty much consistently training, or you get out and do any other kind of activities?
そうですね。いや、でも基本毎日毎朝ずっと朝早くからグラップリングをするっていう生活ですね。
So my basic everyday life is that, I wake up early in the morning and start training, grapple. And that's all I do.
There we go. And that's why you are where you are now. So love to see it. And, last time we did see you in action was at the Road to One event, which, very interesting. It was back in Japan for you, first time in a couple fights. Just what was it like getting to compete at that event and be a part of that back in Japan for that one?
そうですね。移動が少ないから楽かなって思いましたね。
Yeah, it's nice that it's there's no travel involved. So that was a very good part of it.
Of course. And, unfortunately did get a loss in that one, but when you look back on it, had some time now, just any big takeaways from the fight?
プラスか。
So any takeaways from that fight would be any plus out of it would be that I've got the sense and feeling of fighting in MMA again.
Of course, always good to, I'm sure, is it difficult sometimes when you go from grappling to MMA when it's been a while and, maybe readjusting? Is that something that you kind of have to flip a switch in your mind sometimes?
So in an MMA fight, you get hit, you get punched, you get kicked, which usually doesn't happen in grappling, So for an MMA fight, you have to be ready for the pain. You have to be ready to take the pain. You have to embrace the pain from those strikes. So that's something that you have to get used to in an MMA fight.
Definitely. And just to touch on that, some more like, what are your thoughts on combat jiu-jitsu? Do you like that because it's kind of blending it together, or do you prefer that they stay separate?
そうですね。あれはちょっとそうですね。
So I think combat grappling is it's definitely something in the middle between grappling and MMA. Obviously there's no kicks allowed, and you're only allowed palm strikes, which is technically slapping, right? So even when you strike the body, it has to be an open palm strike. So it's very hard. It does require a certain amount of skill for that specific striking aspect, but overall I enjoy it and I think it's very fun.
That's definitely very interesting to watch and differentiate from regular jiu-jitsu, if you want to say. But as for MMA in particular, Masakatsu, like, you got big fight number 60 coming up here for your RIZIN debut. So just curious, like, obviously it's a special thing getting to be a part of this big tournament and the RIZIN debut, as I said, but is it extra special that it's fight number 60, or is it just a number to you?
そうですね。60戦。
It's number 60 is nothing special. It's just a passing point.
Of course. And, do you still feel any nerves at this point, despite that?
いつも、もう毎回緊張してます。
Yeah, the nerves never change. I'm always nervous before a fight.
It's one of those things that sticks with you sometimes, right? And it's very interesting, Masakazu, a very prolific submission artist in MMA. Most of your wins come by submission, fantastic grappler. And you've never actually been submitted at MMA competition. So I'm curious if is that something you take pride in or another thing that you just try not to think about?
まあ MMA の中で
Yeah, so speaking just MMA fights, yes, I probably haven't, been submitted in an MMA fight. But the longer you continue in this industry, or as long as you continue what we do, I'm sure there's going to be a day that I get submitted one day. I mean, obviously, look at Jacare the other day. I mean, he's a beast and he's a master at what he does, but even he got submitted. So I think for me, there's going to be a day where I get submitted, and that time just happened to have not to come yet. So I think I was just fortunate enough to not meet that point yet.
Yeah, well, here's to hoping that, it doesn't come, because I'm sure that would be nicer to have that not happen than to happen. But, as for this upcoming fight here, Masakazu taking on Kenta Takizawa, first round of the tournament. In this matchup in particular, for you, when you look at him, does it feel, is it as simple as getting it to the ground, or how are you viewing the matchup?
So he's a very explosive fighter, and he likes to utilize his knees. So I think those are the things that I need to be aware of. And on top of that, I would like to grapple with him.
Yeah, of course, he is definitely very fun to watch on the feet, and curious to see how just the fight plays out in general. But what are your thoughts on the tournament process that we got for this RIZIN Grand Prix? Because it seemed like a whole lot of fun to, watch play out in the boardroom where you guys were figuring out the matchups and everything. But what was it like getting to be a part of that? Was it a fun experience for you?
So yeah, I think I've experienced something similar to that drawing in Dream once, but that system is very unique. It's very interesting, and I think it's just sheer luck, and you don't necessarily get the fight the opponent you want, but it's all compromise depending on the given situation. So I think it's very unique, but I think it's sheer luck.
All right, yeah, I was very interesting to watch how it unfolded and everything, who got who, and just when you look at kind of all the other competitors in the Grand Prix, and not to look past Kenta, of course, but when you see everybody, is there somebody that you kind of hope to fight and you think would be an exciting matchup if you can go against them at some point?
Yeah, I'd like to fight Kai Asakura.
All right. Any particular reason? We know he's very exciting in the former champ, but what makes him stand out to you?
So I've always been thinking of, I've always want to compete against a tough guy, the toughest guy. So, in my mind, I think he is the toughest guy in the Grand Prix. So just out of that reason, I'd like to face him.
Fair enough. And I mean, just getting in the RIZIN ring for you, I'm sure, is kind of a cool thing, and plenty of great options and opponents just in this tournament alone, let alone outside of it. But getting to be a part of RIZIN, you already mentioned Dream. Does this kind of feel, though, like more of coming full circle in your career? I mean, having fought in Pride back in the day?
Yeah, I feel that this is destiny. I'm not sure how it's going to end up, but how this opportunity kind of fell into my lap, and there must be a good reason for this, right? So I do believe that it's destiny. Not sure how it's going to end up, but yeah, I do feel something special about this.
So how much would you say it would mean to you to go on and win this tournament?
意味か。意味はやっぱりやってきたことの証明ですかね。
So the meaning of winning this tournament would be my chance to prove what I've been doing in the past, what I've continued to do.
Absolutely. And then, if you do make it through the tournament, surely lines up a very big fight with Kyoji Horiguchi, which I'm sure is another guy who is interesting to fight. Is that fair to say?
うん、すごいやりたいですね。うん、興味あります。すごい。
Yeah, I'm very interested in fighting him. I really do want to compete with him.
Would be awesome to see. So see how it all shakes out. But you know, and not to suggest anything, Masakazu, because you know, still going strong and getting to be a part of this tournament. You know, very competitive. But are you looking kind of at the end, and maybe not when, but do you think about when it's time to stop fighting? You know, you've had a very full career, but is that coming to your mind at all at this stage in your life?
うーん、まあ、あんまり考えてないですね。まあ、とりあえず、あと20年ぐらいやりたいなと思って。
Yeah, I haven't really thought about it at all. My goal or my desire is to continue for the next 20 years.
All right. Well, that would certainly be a great achievement if you could pull that off. So wishing you the best with that. And I mean, you've already had a full 20-year career at this point, right? So when you look back on things, you know, if you do it all, and you think of the fondest memories, already mentioned Dream and Pride, right? But the fondest memories throughout your career so far, is there anything that kind of stands out most to you when you go down memory lane?
マイク・ブラウンと、
Yeah, so definitely, if I were to pick a few, one would be against Mike Brown in Deep, and the other one would be against Gene Silva in Cage Rage. Those two definitely stand out.
Oh yeah, Mike Brown, definitely a very notable name and a good win to have on your resume, and kind of leads me to the Imanari role. Kind of have to talk about your move, right? Just curious, like, what was it about this move that, you know, you liked so much to kind of use it enough and make it a signature, right? Like everybody knows it because of you. What was it about this move that, you know, you wanted to make your thing, if that's even how you meant to do it, or if it was just by chance?
そうですね、自分はね、
My strength, my weaknesses are in my wrestling. I can't shoot in like others. That's my weakness. So when you think about how to take the fight to the ground without shooting in, it turned out that I would approach my opponent backwards, and that's where my whole that's how everything got started and ended up in that position.
All right, that's definitely a very tactical approach, and I mean, it sure worked out. It definitely revolutionized, you know, that kind of maneuver, and I'm sure that, you know, students come up and ask you about, oh, teach me the Imanari roll. Is that something you get often?
まあ、よくあります。はい。
It happens often.
I'm sure it does. All right, Masakatsu. I will leave you with one last thing, man. This has been awesome getting a chat with you, legend of the sport. Probably a very, very tough question, and I'm sure you've never even thought about it, but that's why I'm going to ask it. So, you know, what do you think that you would be doing, you know, if you never found combat sports like grappling, fighting? Is there anything you can imagine yourself doing aside from this life?
そうですね、ホームレスかな。
I'd be a homeless.
Okay, well that's not good. So glad we found MMA and stuff. So worked out. All right. Well, that's all I got for you, Masakatsu. So it's fantastic. Very excited to see you in the RIZIN ring in this tournament. And just getting to see you compete again is always a treat. So I thank you so much for the time. A big arigato gozaimashita. Looking forward to everything. Wish you the best of luck as we're getting closer here. And yeah, just thank you so much, man. It was great.
はい、ありがとうございます。
No, I think he's very unique. He's got this very unique approach, but it definitely shows in his fight style. I think Imanari is one of those very few fighters where when he steps into the ring or cage, he owns the atmosphere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he's got such a strong arsenal. It may be his only arsenal, but it's so strong. Everybody knows what to expect. His opponent knows what to expect. His corner man knows what to expect. So he has that such strong arsenal. He controls the atmosphere. Even the crowd knows what to expect.
Yeah.
Right?
It's
and it's very weird when you look at Imanari's fights. Like he owns the place, even if he loses.
Yeah,
it's so weird. He carries that aura, and he's got that ability to be able to just change the atmosphere, the whole tension of the fight. It's very unique. I think there's very few fighters like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like what is it, that phrase? I'd rather know one move than 1,000 moves or whatever. Kind of similar to that. And it's just, everybody knows it, and the presence that he possesses. So definitely a unique guy indeed. Like the homeless answer. That was funny.
He wants to fight for another 20 years, and I'm sure he will. In terms of grappling, I'm sure he will. He's definitely the joker of the tournament. Like, he has potential of beating everybody, and he's got potential of losing to anybody. It's not about style, right? Like a lot of the times, MMA is just, it's more like MMA, who's the better MMA fighter.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys who still brings in the what do you call it? The style versus style type matchup. In Takizawa versus Imanari, it's definitely a style versus style.
Yeah.
Takizawa is saying that I'm not going to the ground with this guy. I'm not going to fight an MMA fight with this guy. I'm going to enforce my game plan against him, and I'm not letting him do his.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting. Whoever takes initiative is going to win this fight. Very simple.
What a story that would be, though. Can you imagine? Ran the table.
It'd be like Miracle winning that heavyweight Grand Prix.
That would be nuts. Oh my
That
goodness.
would be crazy if Imanari-san beat everybody, submitted everybody.
Yeah. Jeez.
Great story.
All right, you guys, community question time. Always fun to do here at the end of the show. Thank you so much for submitting. As always, let's get right into them. Starting things off, our man, repeat asker to Broaden Horizon, Lukowid's Words, chiming in here. Starting things off, asking question for Shingo. What were the biggest lessons RIZIN learned about how they run the organization during the pandemic?
Very interesting. We learned how to sell pay-per-views in terms of domestic pay-per-views. The Japanese culture has always been hard to sell pay-per-views. It's just not a pay-per-view culture. People don't pay for content. They're just so used to watching free television and having combat sports or whatever content on the terrestrial television network. So that's just been the culture. So I think throughout this this pandemic, we have kind of developed our fan base have learned to pay for content they really want to see. Obviously, Japan, Netflix is doing great, Hulu is doing great. Those streaming services and people are getting used to pay for content. So that's a good thing that we've learned and developed during the pandemic.
Yeah, definitely have to adapt to all situations, not just specifically fight stuff, but the TV stuff. I mean, especially when people can't go out, right? That made it just a whole new dynamic. So yes, thank you for that question, Luke. And then he follows it up asking for Drake, as an outside observer looking at the wider MMA sphere, when you see organizations like Road FC in South Korea that went dormant, what stands out about the promotions that were able to keep putting on events versus ones that weren't? So I'm laughing a little bit because the easy answer for me here when I read that is, what stands out the most about the promotions that were able to keep putting on events is the fact that they were able to keep putting on events, right? Like that, I mean, it's only makes sense. And of course, to go deeper into it, obviously there's reasons for why people haven't been able to. World's very crazy place, all that kind of stuff. Don't want to gamble with the situations and whatnot, understand. But I don't know if I have anything too deeper about that, Luke. I'm sorry, but it's just, some people were able to manage the times a bit better and continue to put on events, like RIZIN, for example, and Deep has been able to do so. I believe most of the Japanese promotions now, at least, are have been able to put on shows and what have you, and just around the world as things get open again. KSW about to get back to not full crowds, but crowds in general. So that is exciting. So yeah, I mean, it just, I don't know if I have anything deeper than that. I apologize, but it is what it is, right? So I don't know if you have any comments there, Shingo. I think it's just a matter of the times, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it depends too. I mean, some promotions had to.
Right.
You know, there's certain obligations of they had to deliver certain content to meet their annual contract. So, I mean, I'm sure every promotion has their own reasons why they did it and why they didn't do it. And so, you know, it's just hard to talk in one direction. I'm sure all promotions had their reasons on why they did it, why they didn't do it, why they had to do it,
right,
why they couldn't do it. You know, each country is different. Each country has their own rules. They have their own ways of dealing with the COVID situation. And right now, there's no right answer. I mean, there was no right answer, right? Everyone was trying things out the way they could. They were trying to deal with it their own way under the country's rules. So yeah, it's just super hard. It was a tough situation. It is a tough situation for all of us, all promoters out there. And respect for the ones who pulled it off.
Yeah, just insanely unique of a situation that hopefully we don't have to worry about going forward. But yeah, props to everybody who's, you know, respect for whatever the situations are that everybody's had to go through and be back to normal.
It's crappy. It sucks.
Yeah, no good. But thank you for those questions, Luke. As always, you are the man. All right, and we got another set here coming in from Zane Bando, another previous asker of the show and fellow colleague at Fansided. Thank you, Zane. Always good to hear from you, man. He asks two very interesting questions, as always. Do you think RIZIN will ever get a major US TV deal? It still seems like not enough fans know where or how to watch it. I do, but I'm not sure. I'm sure some do not. So we'll start with that one. Do I think RIZIN will ever get a major US TV deal? Never say never, my friend, but a major one? I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily a target, obviously, but as I said, never say never. Do I think it will happen? Maybe, could. Do a lot of people not know, or not enough people? Yeah, of course, not. They can never have enough knowing about all MMA promotions in general. But again, it's just, you kind of got to focus on certain areas over others, not, you know, what's the priority, you know, the main priority. And you even look at the UFC, of course, the main market is where they're from. US is just how it is with every promotion and business. They have a main location or home base of things they got to work on. And so for them to fully expand to the best of their potential, major, as you said, a major US TV deal, kind of a big thing. So got to be in a good enough spot to where you can sustain that, if that's fair to say. And yeah, that's just is what it is. And I mean, right, Shingo, it is what it is.
Well, I don't know if I need to pick my words carefully on this one. But one thing that I can say is that as far as the US goes, you know, obviously sporting events, it's live. You can't beat a live show. And the time zone is definitely an obstacle.
Right.
And, you know, obviously RIZIN is a very domestic oriented content for the Japanese crowd. And it's made specifically for the Japanese crowd. And obviously with our partners with On Fuji Television, they have their certain demands and we have our obligations to fill. And, you know, the time zone, as, you know, the hardcore international RIZIN fans may know, it's going to be a very unique experience to watch RIZIN live on the Western Hemisphere. And it's definitely a unique experience that everybody, all RIZIN fans, international fans, have been sharing. Lots of coffee and yeah, you know. So in terms of a major television deal, like we've reached out and we've talked, and a lot of compromise has to be done, and there's a lot of additional obstacles that need to be overcome, just because of the time zone, just by itself. So, like you said, never say never. There are certain ways to do it. There are certain ways to get around it, like some other Asian promotions have, but it just all comes down to if it makes sense or not for all parties.
Right.
And of course, it makes sense. Like, does Sakakibara-san want a presence in the U.S.? Absolutely. But I think there's steps to it, and there's timing that comes with it, and there's just a lot of work that needs to be done. So maybe it's my fault. I'm not doing my job.
Let's not go that far. But yeah, no, I think the time zone thing is a great point that you bring up that maybe not a lot of people think about. Like, you kind of have to make everybody happy, right? Or at least you would prefer to. But if you're going to have such a differentiation, which, Japan's time zone to America's, any of the three, take your pick. Still, it's pretty different no matter what. So, you can't please everybody with that.
It's doable. Like Bellator did their show on Paramount, right?
Yeah.
In Japan, they held an event in Japan, showed it on Paramount on their time,
right?
And it worked. So there's definitely ways to do it. So
yeah,
but it's all about making everybody happy, and that is the hard part.
Exactly. So, and you can't make everybody happy as much as we would like to, but we'll see. Never say never. Once again, Zane, appreciate the curiosity about that. And then his second part here says also, which RIZIN fighters, if any, will transition to the UFC by 2020? Well, why are you asking for people to leave? We don't want anybody to leave RIZIN. But by 2020, I mean, I'm sure that there will be one or two, a few there that will transition. But by 2020, I mean, so that would mean in the next 6 months or so. I don't know. That's a tricky one. I feel like if you look at kind of the landscape of things right now, from my perspective, everybody seems pretty not stuck, but comfortable at the very least. And I mean, it's so situational right now, right? With how the world is, and you look at how the cards being put on are primarily domestic because, they have to be for the most part. So I don't know. I might even go as far to say none if it is by 2020. Of course, you can look at some bigger names. Like, I guess the first one pops to mind is like Tofik, but even then, he's just trying to get back in the RIZIN ring right now, which totally makes sense, and would love to see him there under those rules for as long as we can. But yeah, I don't know. That's something I'm not even trying to think about, honestly, Zane, as we're just continue to roll on with events. And of course, people will move around as they do in MMA from time to time. But by 2020, I don't know. Actually, I might say we'll see no transitions from now to the next 6 months or so, and that would be just fine with me. So, sure, no comment there from Shingo, which is just fine. So,
no comment.
Yes. So, all right. Good stuff, you guys. Thank you so much for asking the questions. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, hope you enjoyed another fantastic lineup. I think they're all fantastic, quite biased, but hey, you're here for a reason. Appreciate you tuning in and taking the time to hang out with us and these great athletes and fighters, whoever's involved with MMA over in that part of the world. So thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.